America, we got to get back to doing what's expected of us as free citizens in this democracy. That means being tolerant, being respectful, staying informed, and being engaged. I'm former Congressman Joe Walsh. Follow me here and join the millions of Americans who are renewing their social contract with each other. The social contract, it's on us. Hey, final clip today, this Friday. We're going to show you a final piece of the conversation I had, face-to-face conversation with a really good group of Americans in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I'm going to get to that here on the social contract in just a moment, but I've got to first get one thing off of my chest. And I'll say this as respectfully as I can. Joe Biden, please, sir, go away. Stop speaking publicly, Joe Biden. Please, 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 please. Joe Biden, well, by putting his own interest ahead of the country's interest last year and staying in the race too damn long and being in no condition to run again, Joe Biden put Donald Trump in the White House. Joe Biden's ego got the better of him. Joe Biden, right, similar to Donald Trump, putting his own interest ahead of the country's interest. Joe Biden did that last year, stayed in the race too damn long. Should have gone before the American people in 2022 and said, I'm going to be that bridge. I'm not running. Biden should have done that in 2022. But Biden didn't do that. Biden couldn't do that because Biden put his own interest in front of the country's interest. And because of that, Donald Trump got elected. Joe Biden's doing the same damn thing now. Go away. Why is he out there speaking? Why is he out there reminding the American people that he's just too damn old? Every time Biden's out, the BBC had an interview with the BBC a few days ago. He was on The View a couple days ago. Joe Biden is doing the same damn thing. He's putting his own ego, himself and his own ego out there. And every time he puts, why is he out there now? Why is Biden out there? Every time he's out there, he's helping Trump and he's reminding the American people of how Biden's too old and how the Democrats just really messed up last year with Biden. Respectfully, Biden, go away, sir. Stop speaking publicly. My God, does he not understand? And this is what always slays me. Joe Biden had a hell of a legacy. He defeated Trump in 2020. Hey, MAGA, Joe Biden won. MAGA, Joe Biden won in 2020. Donald Trump lost. Man, Biden beat Trump. And then Biden had a hell of a 4 years. But because Biden couldn't get off the stage, because Biden and the people around Biden couldn't be honest and acknowledge that he was too damn old, Biden screwed his legacy because Biden is responsible for getting Trump elected in 2024. Like if Biden had just understood, man, what I care about is my legacy. If Biden really cared about his legacy, then Biden would have gotten out in 2022. Biden would have endorsed his vice president. The Democrats would have had a vibrant primary season. And the Democrats would have had a much better chance of beating Trump in 2024, and Joe Biden's legacy would have been gold. But because of Biden's ego, The bitter old man and his ego, Biden tarnished, just utterly tarnished his legacy. And Biden's out there now, like trying to repair his legacy now. Biden, go. I'm done. So you know the drill. Hello, everybody. You know the drill. Every week, I am having face-to-face conversations with Americans in every part of this country, from every political perspective, because I believe this is what our country needs right now. We need face-to-face conversation. This country is too divided. We're dangerously divided. We hate the people we disagree with. We got to get off of this road of hate. The only way we get off of this road of hate is face-to-face conversation. I was in Lancaster, Pennsylvania a few weeks ago, going to show you some final footage of, we're filming these conversations and putting them up everywhere so that people can watch from them, hopefully be inspired from them. Most importantly, hopefully learn something from them. A final piece of my conversation with a group of Republicans, former Republicans, and Democrats in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. It was a wonderful conversation, a really interesting conversation with 20 Americans in Lancaster who are supremely worried about this country. Now, that comes across in conversations I'm having with regular folk, and I'm having conversations with just regular people. And generally, regular Americans are, Republican, Democrat, are worried about where the country's at right now. I heard that in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, in spades. By the way, all of the content of the conversations we are having and filming, they're all up on my Substack. All you got to do is go to my Substack, socialcontractwithjoewalsh.substack.com. All of the conversations are there. Check them out. Conversations with Joe. Check them out in the archive. No, you don't have to be a paid subscriber to check out these conversations. Today, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, decency. Do most Americans still support basic decency? Do most of us still embrace and believe in basic human decency? May sound like an odd question, may seem like an odd question, but it shouldn't be. Look, you can be a Trump supporter. You can love Trump. You can be MAGA, MAGA, MAGA all day long, but you got to acknowledge Donald Trump's not a decent guy. Donald Trump doesn't talk about or model decency, and he won in November. He's gotten elected twice. He won again last November. Donald Trump, whatever MAGA you think his strengths are, decency isn't one of them. Trump is the opposite of decency, and he won. Which then begs the question, do most Americans still want their politicians to be decent? Do most Americans still want our public policy to be guided by basic human decency? This clip right here, I'm going to play for you right here, addresses this question. This was the part of my conversation where these Republicans and former Republicans and Democrats in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, wrestled with this very topic. Do most of us still understand or care about or support basic decency? Go ahead, Keith, and play it.
The Radical Democrats, Stu is here. We came up with yard signs that said "Vote Decency." Here's what happened: it didn't work, and
oh no!
Now, it was amazing to me that at the place where I work, I'm a school bus driver, and I'm surrounded by Trumpists, and people would come up to me, and I'd have my hat on, and they'd go, "What does that mean?" I kid you not. They did not understand.
We're laughing about that, but
Mr.
what does
Trump
that?
And all that he was preaching and representing was fundamentally not decent.
That guy right there in Lancaster is a bus driver in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Last year, about halfway through the campaign, he made a bunch of hats. Make America decent again. Make America decent again. He and others in that group talked about a decency party, a political party that led with decency. But as that guy last year in Lancaster, as he and his friends, they wore these hats, Make America Decent Again, it didn't work. People did in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, people didn't rally around that. And he talks there about Trump supporters who looked at his hat and scoffed at his hat, Make America Decent Again. But as that conversation went on, and you can see the entire conversation again, if you go to my Substack, they talked about, it wasn't just Trump supporters who laughed at Make America Decent Again, who laughed at the notion of decency. This bus driver and other people in Lancaster found that that word, that concept didn't really resonate last year. It was fascinating to listen to. This was about early to midsummer last year, before the real heated campaign, and folks in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, trying to get the word out, decency, make America decent again. They literally had a bunch of caps, ball caps made, thinking they could create a groundswell. Pennsylvania, battleground state, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, politically a fairly diverse area, and it got nowhere. There was no groundswell in Lancaster, Pennsylvania around the concept, the principle of decency. Now, I'm not talking about in the heart of red MAGA land, where I suppose if you got a bunch of blue caps or even red caps that said Make America Decent Again, maybe you'd be run out of town, maybe you'd be laughed at. But this wasn't that area. This was across the board in red, blue, and purple in the entire Lancaster County. It didn't take off. The concept of decency last year during the campaign did not take off. And I sat down again with 20 good folks from Lancaster, and almost to a man and a woman, they said, and I remember when I got in the car after the conversation, drove back home, this really bummed me out. They all said that decency probably doesn't play right now. Decency is probably not the way to go. Decency, probably not a winning concept. The decency party. I don't think, Joe, somebody said, I asked the question ultimately because I was like, I wasn't surprised by what they were saying. I was bothered by what they were saying. I was curious about what these folks in Lancaster, PA were saying. I finally just shouted out, what if I started a political party and called it the Decency Party? Could I win? Could that party win? And these folks in Lancaster, Pennsylvania said, probably not. Probably not. That was, to say the least, that was interesting. But again, and we talked about it, Americans elected someone and I'll put the best spin on it because you know what I think of Donald Trump. Americans elected someone who did not lead with decency. Decency wasn't part of his vocabulary. I think he's the opposite of decency, but he won. So our conversation then got into is that maybe this is not what America wants right now. I mean, Trump said, I'm going to deport everybody. I'm going to build a wall around America. I'm going to give a middle finger to the rest of the world. Trump led with cruelty. His supporters would say Trump led with toughness. His opponents would say Trump's an asshole. And there were folks in this group in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, who opposed Trump, who said, hey, America knowingly elected an asshole. And I've said that before. America in 2024 knowingly elected an asshole. Now, and I've spoken to, and I speak with plenty of Trump voters, and plenty of Trump voters have told me, Joe, I know he's an asshole. But that's what I want. And you combine that with the fact that the Democrats come across as weak, like Trump's an asshole, but the Democrats come across as weak on any issue. And again, the conversation I had, heck, most conversations I've had these last 2 to 3 months, generally most Americans so far fit with kind of that dynamic, that balancing of, yeah, Trump's an ass, but the Democrats are weak. And I think that was the perception last year, and that's been the perception for a while. The people in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, even the Democrats that were in that group said the very same thing. Like Trump ran saying, I'm going to enforce our laws, our immigration laws, whatever. He led with that. What the Democrats lead with. So this notion of decency, does it even play anymore? Does it even resonate with the American people anymore? I mean, look at 2 headlines this week. Look at 2 headlines this week. 3 days ago in Dalton, Georgia, a 19-year-old undocumented immigrant who's been in this country since she was 4 years old, brought to this country. I don't know if you have that headline, Keith. She was, thank you, brought to this country when she was 4 years old. Her parents entered this country illegally. She was 4 years old when she came here. 3 days ago, as a 19-year-old, she's pulled over, traffic violation, turned right on a red light. She's pulled over. Turns out she's undocumented. She's grabbed, she's detained. ICE, the immigration cops, grab her. She's now being held in a detention center down in Georgia, and they may try to deport her. 4 years old, grown up in this country, went to school in this country, went to high school. She's in college right now. She's been working every day. She's a working student. Her friends, her family, everybody vouches for what a wonderful young lady she is. And she was detained because of a traffic stop. And now she's being held in an immigration detention center and may well be deported back to Mexico. Is that the decent thing to do? Enforce our laws, enforce the laws, enforce the immigration laws. But in this case, is this what we are? Is this what America is? A traffic stop, we grab a 19-year-old young lady, a contributing member to this country. She came here when she was 4, and now we're going to lock her up for a month and a half in some cold detention center and then send her back to Mexico. Is this who we are? Is this the decent thing to do? And I ask everybody, because I'm a defend the border kind of a guy, and nobody should come into this country illegally, but is this the way to do it? Is she the hardened criminal that you want out of this country? I don't think most Americans support this. She came here, Jenny, when she was 4. Her parents brought her here. What did she do wrong, Jenny? What did she do wrong? She came here when she was brought here when she was 4 years old. Her parents brought her here illegally. You want to penalize her? Came here not as an infant, as a 4-year-old? Is there not a middle ground, getting back to this notion of decency, support, defend our border, enforce our immigration laws? But grab a 19-year-old girl, throw her in a detention center, and deport her because of a traffic stop, and you find out she was brought here when she was 4 years old, and she's done nothing but the right thing for 15 years. She's been a grade A student. She's worked. She's paying taxes. She's on her way to becoming a college graduate. And you're going to get rid of her? I thought, MAGA, we wanted to get rid of the people in this country illegally who were violent criminals. Is this a violent criminal? Decency, right? Can we enforce our immigration laws with decency? Or what happened yesterday? Oh my God, did you see this? On the street, a group of masked ICE agents, immigration cops on the street detain a woman clinging to her baby and grab her. And residents of this neighborhood, where was this? Worcester, Massachusetts. Residents in the neighborhood surrounded these ICE cops, just pounced on this woman as she got out of the car holding her baby. Immigration cops wearing masks pounced on this woman, grabbed her, tried to whisk her off. A crowd surrounded the cops, surrounded the car. She's holding her baby, and they grab her, throw her into a car, and detain her. This notion of, thanks, Keith, is there, and I guess, again, I'm pleading with everybody but MAGA. I don't know. I hope I'm pleading with MAGA too. MAGA, like me, right? Defend the border. MAGA, like me, enforce your immigration laws. MAGA, like me, anybody in this country illegally who's a violent criminal should be the hell out of this country. But is this what we are? Is this what you want us to be? Grabbing people like this, detaining people like this who have no criminal record, who were brought here as infants, as babies, as kids. And I don't think a lot of America realizes, and I didn't always realize, when I used to back in the day oppose DACA, most infants, babies, and children who are brought here because their parents came here illegally, man, they've been here 10, 15, 20, 30 years, brought here as kids, and they've lived productive lives, and they've gone to school, and they've graduated from high school, and they've graduated from college. And many of these DACA kids are now adults serving in the military. Do you just want to get rid of them? Do we get rid of them? Decency. I keep coming back to this concept. Again, the conversation in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Can we not embrace decency anymore? Can we not be tough on immigration and the border and do it in a decent way? And I tell you, I believe that this is not decent. Pulling over a 19-year-old undocumented young lady because of a traffic stop, and then holding her, finding out she came here, she was brought here when she was 4 years old. You find out who she is. You find out how she's lived the last 15 years. You find out how she has become American, a contributing member to America. Brought here as a child, you detain her, you throw her. She sits now all by herself in a detention center. And you're going to yank her out of America? That's not the decent thing to do, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. But the more important question is, my God, is this who you want to be? Is this what you want America to be? Not just a country that says we're going to defend our border and we're getting all violent criminals out of here. No, we're getting everybody out of here. 14, 15, 16 million people who right now are in this country illegally. We're getting them all out. Babies, people married to American citizens, people who've been paying taxes for 30 years, people who've started businesses, people who've just overstayed their visas and they've hired and employed hundreds. We're getting rid of everybody. No distinction. No distinction, MAGA, between a 19-year-old young lady who's in college, brought here when she was 4. And if she stayed here, oh man, is this young woman, already an American, going to do so much for this country. No distinction between her and someone who's in this country illegally, who's a violent criminal. No distinction, MAGA. None. They're both bad. Get rid of them both. I get it. I get, going back to my conversation in Lancaster, I get that Trump's an asshole and Trump's just doing all the extreme shit. And the beauty about Trump is because even on deportations and immigration and everything, he's so freaking extreme and he's so cruel and he's so not nuanced, right? That there will be a backlash because, and I get the Democrats on the issue of immigration have been so fucking weak and so out of it and so dismissive for so long. I get it. And that helped to elect Trump, the deporter in chief, because the Democrats were so out of touch. I understand that that's how a bad guy like Trump got elected, who now is doing bad things like grabbing contributing members to this society who were brought here when they were 4 years old, and now we're grabbing them off the street and throwing them into detention centers. I get how the Democrats led to this, but this is not where most Americans are. I do not believe that. And I told I told the folks in Lancaster, Pennsylvania that 3 weeks ago. Most Americans are decent. And we talked about the issue of immigration. Most Americans want their border defended. Most Americans want anybody in this country illegally who's a violent criminal the hell out of this country. But most Americans believe you were brought here when you were 1, 2, 3, 4 years old, and you've been living here for 10, 15 years. You've gone to school. You've grown up here. Most Americans don't want those folks deported. Most Americans want to enforce their immigration laws with decency. I believe that. Most Americans don't want to live in a country where our immigration cops, fully masked, will pounce on a woman getting out of a car in her neighborhood holding a baby, and they grab that woman as she clings to her baby. Most Americans don't want to live in a country where this kind of shit is happening on our streets. I believe that. Most Americans don't want people deported out of this country because of things they've said or things they believe. Most Americans don't believe that's the right or decent thing to do. No way. Most Americans on immigration and the border are not this bullshit, are not this extreme, ugly, cruel deportation bullshit that Trump is doing. By the way, Democrats, most Americans, Democrats, and you learned this in the last election, Democrats, most Americans are not, immigration's not a problem, migrants aren't a problem, our border's not a problem, let's just ignore the issue, which is what Joe Biden did for 3.5 years. Most Americans, Democrats, are not there either. So give me a decency party, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I do believe a decency party, even on an issue like immigration, could succeed. Thank you for listening. By the way, 2 quick reminders this Friday. Every week I'm having face-to-face conversations. We're filming the conversations. We're showing them on this podcast. I'm putting them all up on my Substack. Go to my Substack and you can watch all of these conversations. You can watch the long versions of these conversations. Man, you can watch the hour-long versions of these conversations. They're interesting. Social Contract with JoeWalsh.substack.com. Go there, look for Conversations with Joe, or go into the archives. You can pull up the conversations from that we're now beginning to post from everywhere in the country that we're going. If you want me to come where you are, because I'm sitting down with MAGA, I'm sitting down with Lefty, and I'm sitting down with everybody in between. If you'd like me to come where you are, have a conversation, film that conversation, just invite me. Send me an email, thesocialcontractwithjoewalsh@gmail.com. The Social Contract, all one word, with JoeWalsh@gmail.com. Invite me. I'll come sit down with you. We'll have a conversation. Face-to-face conversation is what this country needs. Make it a good weekend. Have a great weekend. And everybody, be brave.
Thank you for listening. Remember to listen, share, and follow The Social Contract with Joe Walsh on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere great podcasts are found. And be sure to leave a 5-star review. This has been The Social Contract